BMW has given the Z4 a makeover. The new edition of the Bavarian Roadster hits German dealerships in March. We get a sneak preview out on the roads of Australia. The changes for the latest version are so subtle, however, that even BMW enthusiasts will need a second look to detect them. The headlamps have been adapted to the current BMW design vocabulary, and on the sides the Z4 features new chrome detailing around the indicators. The roof can still be opened electronically at the touch of a button. It takes around 20 seconds to retract into the trunk. On the inside, there's the clear layout of instruments you'd expect from BMW. The new design options, such as the combination of black and orange, are intended to deliver a dynamic color contrast. By far the biggest changes, however, are to be found under the hood. There's now the option of the Z4 S-Drive 18i engine, a 2-liter turbo unit generating 115 kilowatts of power. It propels the new Z4 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.9 seconds. The 4- and 6-cylinder power plants are retained, ranging between 135 and 250 kilowatts. The smaller engine means a lower entry price. In Germany, just under 35,000 euros. The facelifted Roadster gets its official premiere at the Detroit Motor Show. Welcome to our battle of the sedans, as the mid-range Kia Optima takes on Audi's full-size A8. Is this like comparing apples and oranges, wonders Sasha? In fact, he reveals the Kia Optima was created by former Audi designers, and the two sedans have something else in common. They're both hybrid models. First, we take a look at the Kia's exterior. A bold design with crisp lines. Just the right thing for a car developed specifically for the European market. The roofline likewise makes no compromises. At the back, the Optima shows off its credentials in the shape of a neon green hybrid badge. The A8 is also strikingly designed. It also has an extra badge at the back and sides to make clear its hybrid identity. This is indeed not a case of apples and oranges, says Sasha, as evidenced by the hybrid setups, specifically the electric motor. Here we have a 40-kilowatt unit, and in the Optima a 30-kilowatt unit. Now we want to see what the Kia can deliver. The electric motor provides start assist and can take you up to 100 kilometers an hour. It runs on a standard-fitted lithium polymer battery. Compared to conventional nickel-metal hybrid batteries, it is 20% lighter, 40% smaller, and stores its energy reserves for longer thanks to reduced self-discharge. The parallel hybrid system delivers a total of 140 kilowatts. In Germany, the price for our test model is just under 30,000 euros. And if the specs are correct, the engine should struggle after a short while. Sasha's going to take the Kia uphill, and not slowly. He expects the 2-liter engine to have a real fight on its hands. The Kia certainly looks good. Smooth, elegant contours, a coupe-style profile, and an athletic style. But now let's compare the interiors of the two hybrid models. Which one will come out on top? The Kia certainly gets its occupants in and out of the car faster, says Sasha. The tone emitted when a door is open is annoying. There's another audio indicator when we start up the ignition, and the seat is shifted into the right position. As this is a sedan, he expects to be able to sit in the back. Sasha is 1.92 meters tall. It's far from ideal. Long journeys would be a no-go. Over to the A8. The seat position in the Audi is automatically adjusted when you start the ignition. But as Sasha has his seat as far back as possible, there's no major change. And how's it at the back? Not very spacious for a sedan, finds Sasha. His legs are even more squashed up than in the Kia Optima. He doesn't like that one bit. A points win for the Optima. But we continue with the A8. The Audi engineering team gave it a fully fledged hybrid setup with a parallel configuration. A combustion engine with 155 kilowatts and an electric motor with 40 kilowatts are located one directly behind the other. Depending on the required specifications, they can work in tandem or individually. The power in this case comes from a lithium-ion battery, which likewise reaches speeds of 100 kilometers an hour in pure electric drive mode. The A8 consumes almost a liter more fuel per 100 kilometers. That said, 6.3 liters is still a decent figure in relation to the extra weight. On the German market, the model we tested sells for 99,220 euros. Of course, the Audi A8 is really different to drive, says Sasha. It hugs the road, you can hear the engine, and when you step on it, the sound gets even more interesting than in the Kia, meaner and leaner. The Kia just revs up louder. The most important markets for the hybrid A8 are China and Japan, although it is also available in Europe. As with the Audi, the Kia has its battery behind the rear seats, but the Optima looks like it has a lot more capacity in the trunk. The battery in the Audi takes up a major portion of the trunk. What you get here for your 100,000 euros is a trunk that opens automatically, but you still can't fit in more cargo. In comparison, the Audi, top left, packs in 330 liters of space, the Kia 381. Sasha admits that the comparison is a little unfair. No serious Audi A8 driver would be likely to plump for the smaller sedan from Kia. Even if you narrow it down to the hybrid drives, the Audi still has its nose in front. The interior insulation is far better. The Kia's electric motor has the feature of humming very loudly. If that doesn't bother you, you might be interested in the Kia Optima Hybrid, especially because of its lower price. E-car sharing is currently all the rage. More and more companies are hiring out e-cars for the price of a gas guzzler, like this Smart 4.2 electric drive. But most e-cars are available in cities only because their batteries don't go the distance. In Germany, the government wants to see 1 million e-cars on German roads by 2020. A new version of Audi's S3 will hit the streets soon. The updated model delivers 221 kilowatts of power, and the 6.9-liter automatic and 7.0 manual versions both save 1.5 liters over 100 kilometers on their predecessor. The new S3 will sell for prices starting at 38,900 euros in Germany. Even thousands of years ago, sailing ships comprised a hull, mast, and sails. The principle remains the same, even if they have evolved over time. Just like the new Gulf, remarks Konstantin, and this is it. He's not sure whether it's obvious, but there can be no doubt it's another Gulf. The Volkswagen Golf dates back to the previous millennium, of course. Compact, available with 2 or 4 doors, and a hatch. It was one of a kind when originally launched in 1974, but times have since changed. As have sailing ships, with models as numerous as grains of sand on the beach. They differ in detail, but they all share a mast and sails. It's similar with the Golf. The car continues to inspire copycats, obviously the Focus and Astra, but also from Hyundai and Kia, and also including the BMW 1 Series, Audi A3, and more recently the A-Class from Mercedes. The products from the upscale marquees are barely more expensive. The Golf is surrounded by challengers and has seen its sales figures decline. Then there's the option you have today of buying a people carrier or an SUV. How is the Golf supposed to keep its head above the water? Perhaps via its design. It's no-frill styling. There are no wild creases, folds, and edges as seen in other models. Some would call it boring, others timeless. There's no expiry date on it, at least. And despite the chunky pillar at the back, visibility is superior to that in most other models. The distance between the axles is now 6 centimeters longer, so Konstantin hopes that means a little more legroom. Yes, could be. The trunk also has grown in size for Golf generation number 7, and it's certainly sufficient for most scenarios. Sailing ships range from the cozy to the sporty. At the performance end of the new Golf, there is again a GTI with 162 kilowatts of power. The most efficient edition is the diesel Blue Motion. The manufacturer's 3.2 liters per 100 kilometers claim would top its class. And there are electric and hybrid versions in the pipeline, at long last. The car we got to test was the 110 kilowatt diesel-powered model. The permanent knocking means you never forget it's a diesel, points out Konstantin, but that's also evident from the power reserves available here. This Golf has a precise steering response and hugs the road nicely, a lovely drive. The workmanship is also sound, among the very best in its segment. You get the distinct feeling that committed perfectionists were at work here. All that class does cost extra, however. There's the monitor, for example, which anticipates your approaching hand. Konstantin asks if anybody actually wants their car to have an electric park brake. Not him. So why have they added one to the Golf as well now? Ships were fitted with radar long before cars were. The Golf is now too, as an optional extra. It monitors the car in front and automatically applies the brakes where necessary. VW is proud of having saved over 20% in production costs compared to the outgoing version. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean the new edition is 20% cheaper. Prices still start at 17,000 euros, and it's only available in one color, garbage pin gray, and there's no radio. The fully equipped model we tested cost 33,000 euros. Aircon is at least standard. So, where's the progress, wonders Konstantin? Perhaps it's a matter of gradual evolution. The Golf is more modern, efficient, safer, and probably the best all-rounder in its class. But cheap, it is not. Elsewhere on the economy front, the automatic box now shifts into idle mode when the engine is coasting, cutting consumption. The technical term for this function? Sailing. It looks real enough. Fortunately, it's just pretend. A pile-up involving 100 cars, leaving many dead and many more injured. The cause of the accident? Poor visibility due to sudden fog. This might just be a crash test, a training exercise for 350 rescue workers. But in fact, it's a very realistic scenario, as firefighter André Weiss from Tübingen knows very well. It can happen any time due to bad visibility caused by fog, heavy rain, or snowfall, he says. It starts with one car, and then 2 or 3 crash into the back of it. Then trucks get involved, and suddenly you're dealing with a scene like this one. What can be done to prevent accidents like this? Claudia Werner is used to country roads. She takes us through a simulated fog bank. Accident researcher Jörg Algren is going to explain what drivers need to do when they suddenly find their visibility impaired. Drivers might easily panic. Claudia can only see about 20 meters ahead. Luckily, it's only for a few seconds, and she's on a stretch of road that's been sealed off. But it's enough to make Claudia very nervous. It's hard to gauge the situation, she says. Driving lessons might touch on the topic, but don't necessarily clarify exactly what drivers should do. Obviously, they should put on their rear fog lights, but that won't really help you get your bearings. The problem is knowing how to brake, a lot, or just a bit. If you brake heavily, points out Jörg Algrim, cars behind might crash into you. But if you don't brake enough, you might rear-end another vehicle yourself, since you can't see the situation up. There's no definitive set of rules. All you can do is try to reduce your speed and keep an eye on what other vehicles are doing. It's also very important to keep a safe distance from other cars. In fog, you have to make sure that you have enough room up ahead to come to a stop, says our expert, because you can't rely on what the traffic ahead is going to do. You also need to use your speedometer as a pointer in terms of distance and visibility. A small experiment shows just how important it is to use the speedometer to maintain a minimum distance to the vehicle in front when visibility is poor. We set up an obstacle and simulate a situation where drivers have visibility of just 50 meters. It's only at this point that a driver can see the obstacle and react accordingly. If they're driving at 50 kilometers an hour, there's enough time to react. But if they're doing 75, they're going to pile into the car in front. It's all too easy to pick up that amount of speed. Reflector posts can be very useful when it comes to gauging distance. They're always set 50 meters apart. When visibility is bad, it's also a good idea to keep to the right-hand lane to avoid colliding with oncoming traffic. As Jörg Algren points out, it's also important not to keep daytime running lights on in this sort of situation. They only illuminate up ahead, but not the tail lights. So turn on your headlights, rear fog lamps, and even hazard lights. There's nothing more dangerous than driving without proper illumination in fog. And if you need to leave your vehicle, wear a safety vest to make yourself more visible. We're at an old farm in Rosenheim near Munich. Today it's packed full of vintage car models. There's a showroom in the old barn, and the cars on show here range from Jaguars to Porsches and Mercedes. All of them are for sale. Owner Michael Mandat doesn't just love vintage cars, he loves trading them. He thinks this Fiat Dino Spider is a very classy model. It was unveiled for the first time at the 1966 Turin car show, and the car's been completely restored. It's as good as new, so to speak. Its body is in great shape. It's colored azzurro, the typical Fiat blue. Both its design and form are exquisite. The headlights are slightly hidden. Its fenders are wonderfully designed. It has a pretty sexy look and feel, and it comes with Fiat Dino First Edition center-lock wheels. Back in the day, Fiat made Ferraris that everyone could afford, and the Dino's engine is made by Ferrari. In the mid-1960s, Enzo Ferrari designed a new Formula 2 car. He took the engine for it off the shelf. But Formula 2 rules specify that engines had to be from an edition that had been produced at least 500 times. To comply, Ferrari decided to fit its unit into a Fiat car, and that's how the Dino was born. Michel Mondat's Fiat Dino wasn't for sale until just recently. That's because it's his. But now Michel is ready to part company. Being a dealer, he's got a few other cars. Michael is taking this collector's item for a test drive for the last time. He wants to make sure his Dino doesn't fall to bits when the buyers turn up. He has had a chance to collect some of the prettiest and most expensive vintage cars around, but this Dino Spider is one of his favorites. It came from America, but Michael picked it up a couple of years ago in Europe. What he likes best about this Fiat is that it races out of the blocks. It boasts 160 horsepower. Its body is really nicely done in his opinion. Its form was designed by Pininfarina, a really classy car. It has flair and a bit of a vintage feel. And once it's up and running, Dino proves it can still match it with the best of them. Now it's up and running. He can really put his foot on the gas. It's only now that you sense what the Dino can do. It's most fun driving at top speed. It delivers pure driving pleasure. In the mid-60s, this Ferrari V6 engine was better than both Mercedes' SL 6-cylinder and Porsche's 911. Michel says it has more oomph and can accelerate better than either of them. But watch out when you're driving at high speeds. Its suspension comprises one rear live axle, which does make taking corners difficult. For him, the most important thing is developing a feel for the car. Still, double shock absorbers and extra power make the Dino a pretty manageable drive with a pretty high threshold, despite that rear axle. The best thing about the interior is that it's completely intact and restored, Michel says. There are these cool imitation leather seats, a classic steering wheel from Nandi, a classic 60s-style dashboard featuring a speedometer, rev counter, fuel, water, oil, and oil pressure gauges. Plus, the model has a 5-speed transmission, which means it's a smooth ride. And this is the gem of the Dino, the engine. A 2-liter, 160-horsepower unit. It has 3 double-pump carburetors, a pretty big accomplishment back then. The name of the car is taken from the engine that Alfredino Ferrari commissioned. He's the son of Enzo. Ferrari used it for the Dino and Fiat for its own version of the model. Today, there are very few Dino Spiders in good shape. There were originally 525, but no one really knows how many are left. Today, it's a huge collector's item. The Spider is best at high speed, but it's a comfy ride over long distances too. Of course, the Dino performs best on country roads where you can really put it to work. That's a bunch of fun. You can go a bit quicker. You can try to hit maximum speed because the Dino feels pretty rad between 6,000 and 7,000 revs. And the Dino's sumptuous engine is legendary. Michel didn't find it easy to part with Dino. It's a great car. It delivers pure driving pleasure, and it makes him think back to good times and places. So it's been tough saying goodbye. But for a vintage car dealer, c'est la vie. At least Michel knows that the Dino has found a good home. And anyway, he still has his barn packed full of automotive treasures.